Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Andy Yeoman. I'm from Concirrus. I'm glad to have the opportunity to present to you, albeit under slightly strange circumstances. We are hoping to be together in New York. You find me today in my home office in Hampshire in the UK, but nonetheless, I'm pleased to be able to present to you. There are four things that I want to talk about today. I'd like to talk about how data has been used to codify the insurance industry. I'd like to talk about how observed versus declared behaviour is a change that's going on in insurance and how this affects the ferry industry. I'd like to talk about something called the prospective perspective. And lastly, I'd like to leave you with a message about owning your own insurance reputation when it comes to the data that's being collected about you. So the ferry industry is an incredibly interesting one. Obviously, since the Herald of Free Enterprise in 1987 and the accident that happened there's been a lot of regulation that come into the market about safety. In recent years, however, there's been a new change that's been ushered in, and that is the emergence of very large data sets around the industry. And that's something that Concirrus has been working in. Let's just take a look at what we mean by very large data sets. Our contention is that the industry now has been codified. So let me give you some perspective. Every vessel, every shipment on that vessel, all ownership changes, all flag changes, every movement of the vessel, every port that it's been in and every inspection that it's had has been ingested by companies like ourselves, analysed and made ready for inspection and use within the insurance industry. And in fact, we're in a very privileged position where not only do you have all of that, but we also have vast amounts of information about the policies that have been written, the prices that have been set, the claims that have occurred, and even environmental information such as weather and other factors. And this totals something like 2 trillion data points in the platform. What this means is that the behaviour of the fleets and the vessels themselves has been clearly understood. So when we talk about behaviour, what do we mean? Well, when you're going to get insurance previously, people would ask you about the composition of your fleet. They would ask you information about, well, what type of vessel is it? Who's the operator? Who's the owner? What's what the class, where it was built and when it was built, that sort of information. We call that sort of demographic information. But they don't necessarily ask you about the how, where and when the vessel has been used. So which routes are you following? Which ports are you visiting? How often, etc. Well, all of that information is now available. So as I say, within our platform and other platforms like it, what you're finding is that actually every movement of every vessel has been analysed and understood, and it's been compared to peers and contemporaries in the industry, and also compared to claims. And candidly, behaviour wins. What we've seen is that as a method of assessing price and understanding insurance and risk, behaviour wins at describing the risk, it wins at pricing the risk. And not only that, it's a lead indicator for claims. So if people sailing into ports too fast is a factor that we see correlates to claims frequently, what we're able to do as an industry is identify people who haven't claimed yet but are exhibiting those sorts of behaviours, and we're able to intercept that before it becomes a claim. And because of that, it also syndicates you as a customer into the risk transfer process. So the insurer is able to say, actually, you're behaving like a fleet that's about to have a claim, and gives you the opportunity to do something about that before that claim happens. And to give you some perspective, all of that information is available to the insurers and indeed yourselves as the insured in simple web interfaces. And again, this is a couple of screenshots from our system. We're not here to sell you the software, but just for you to understand that everything about what you do, when you operate and where you operate has now been ingested and understood. So how your risk is presented to the insurer by the broking community is going to change. So rather than describing who you are and where you operate and the age of your fleet, etc., they're now able to present to the market an understanding of how, when and where you operate, and indeed how you compare to your contemporaries. The good news is that this digital environment should, in principle, give us more flexible products. So obviously with our current economic situation, we've seen a massive downturn in business, and I'm sure that many of you out there would have seen the impact of COVID-19 dramatically to your business. Well, if we use behaviour as a method for describing policies, we have the ability to create more flexible digital policies themselves. But does that mean it's going to all be automated? I don't think so. So our contention is that the future is actually a blend of the art of our underwriting with the science of data. For sure, everything that has happened has been ingested and analysed, and that's been codified into the industry. But is it that simple? Does the past equal the future? Well, I think that this year, with our bizarre circumstances, has proven that that's not the case. Who would have anticipated at the tail end of last year, the close of the year, that a third of the world's population would have been under lockdown by the end of March? I'm not sure. If someone had asked me to take a bet, I'm pretty sure I would have taken the bet that that wasn't going to happen, and I'm pretty confident I would have lost my money. So our view is that the algorithms, as good as they are, they're not actually particularly good at predicting the future and predicting some of these events, and that's where we really need the skill of not only the underwriters but the operators. And we call this the prospective perspective. So the ability for you to understand what's likely to happen in your industry and to the risk that you represent to the market. And when you combine that with all of the analytics about the past, I think you then get a true picture of the risk that's likely to be presented in the coming 12 months. So when businesses went online, just generally retailers went online, one of the new bits of software, new categories of software that emerged was something called reputation management. And reputation management was very much about, if you're a retailer, if someone tweets, I had a really bad experience at X store today, that software will pick it up and it will allow that retailer to intercept that and actually handle the complaint before it starts to damage their reputation. And that's now available with this data. So by having an understanding of not only how you behave as a fleet, but how your behaviour compares to some of your contemporaries, and how that behaviour drives claims or is an indicator for claims or not, gives you an aligned view between you as the insured and the insurer. If the insurer is truly going to judge you on your behaviour, I think that you as a insured fleet need to invest time to understand that behaviour. So you know which factors. So if, for example, it's rapid turns and manoeuvres we see as a lead indicator of claims, and your fleet is behaving that way, you can reasonably expect that you're going to be priced on that behaviour. So having an understanding of that, I think, is going to be key going forwards. We talk about predictable risks. Again, take a simple example. If speeding into ports turns out to be a factor, no matter how well you may know those ports, it gives you the opportunity to do something about that before to have a claim. So again, if you see that you may have one or two members of your crew, your captains out there, who have different ways that they sail the vessels, but they are consistent with claims, etc., you have the ability to own that. We call this active risk management, and get on top of that before it comes a claim. And then this last point about talking about captive opportunities. The captive insurer, so the insurer, the fleet operator themselves, maintain a degree of insurance. We're not advocating that you would all become insurers, but what we are advocating is that actually when you understand your behaviour, you can start to look at which of these behaviours drive claims and which of these claims you feel that you can hold on your balance sheet. So is it appropriate for you to cede less into the market? By truly understanding what the driving factors of claims can be and what these behaviours are, we believe that you can do a better job of looking at your own business and to say understanding which risks you want to insure and which risks you want to keep on your own balance sheet. So the risk manager of the future within a fleet operator, and in fact with any marine operator, is going to have a different view from the past. You think you're going to start having to curate prospective knowledge, you're going to have to create a view on what you think is going to happen in the industry. Yeah. What processes you're putting in place, what changes you're putting in place around safety and operation of your fleet. You're going to have to derive scenarios, you have to figure out, actually, this is why we believe that X or Y is going to happen. We see a change in passenger counts. This is going to be the impact to our business. We're going to open these routes, we're going to close these routes. And you need to drive, as I say, a consensus of what that means to the risk to your business. This notion of influencing, not controlling, is one of, both within your organisation but also through your brokers and into your insurers, is actually being able to explain the behaviours and why you believe you represent a good risk to the business. And then with that in place, recognising that with technologies like this, your insurer is able to observe the way that your fleet is behaving. And if they can observe it, you then, as a risk manager, have the ability to monitor your own aggregate behaviour, adapt that, if necessary, take additional training or intercept risks before they crystallise and react to the environment that's going on. But overall, we believe that this change in the industry and this abundance of data is actually going to put you more in control of your own business, not less. I hope this has been useful, and I hope that at some point in the future we're going to get to see you, get to visit you face to face. If you have any questions, you can always get hold of me at andy@concirrus.com, and I look forward to meeting you at some point in the future. Thank you for your time.